What is going on, YouTube? It's Tyler from Mission VR, where it's my mission to bring you guys good quality VR content. And we're finally at that time of year. We're going to be reviewing at this time our top 10 Quest games that you can get on the store. And I did try to rank this as best as I could in order from 10 to 1. Guys, this is a good thing. It was really difficult to make this list this time around. There's actually a lot of games that are really good. And there was games that I had to not put on this list that I played. And I was like, man, like that was one of the best VR games I played at that time. And it's like, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, like there's a lot of really good VR games. So like, that's good for us because that means VR is definitely getting a lot more games. And there's still some games that have not come out this year yet that look fantastic. So, you know, this list is just going to kind of be evolving as we, really close out the next 3 or 4 months here. I mean, there's just so many games that could end up on this list for next year. It's just crazy to me that VR is going the way it is. So that's actually a really big thing. Yeah, but it was really difficult to make this list. So if your game or your favorite game did not make this list, please do leave that in the comment section. I want to hear about what your favorite experiences were. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, so this list is kind of, my opinion, and, take that with a grain of salt. I did try to put some stuff on here that I think objectively were just amazing titles that maybe, I only put so much time into, but like you maybe play all the time. There was a lot of that. So definitely a tough list to make, but I'm excited to make it. And with that being said, guys, today's video is brought to you by Kiwi Designs. Check out Kiwi Designs in the link below. They have a big Black Friday sale going on, and they basically are able to provide you with any VR accessories for your Quest 2 and Quest 3. They're a fantastic company. All their products are really quality made. And every time, I've tried a bunch of third-party stuff on Amazon, from random distributors, and I'm never disappointed with what Kiwi brings out. It's always better quality than all that. So I definitely would check out the link in the description below. Also check out the Amazon storefront if you're looking for any other Amazon accessories for your VR. And with that being said, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's go ahead and get into our first pick. All right, guys, with our first pick here at number 10, I have Demeo. Now, Demeo is a cross-platform tabletop RPG game, kind of inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, and it is, when I say cross-platform, it's with PlayStation and Quest and on PC. So there is a decent amount of players in this game. If you are trying to play with friends that you don't necessarily are already sporting up to play with. Now, the reason why Demeo is on this list, it may not be everybody's cup of tea. And I recently revisited this game, trying to play it again. And for me, like, it's a great game. And it would be a great game to play with a group of friends that are into tabletop games. And it's deep. This game is deep. It has a lot of content in this game. And I think that that's why it deserves to be on this list. Because if you are a fan of tabletop RPG genre type games, and this game is amazing, like, to be able to play a game like this in VR, like, this is the future of board games. And I don't care what anybody says. Nobody else who does not understand what VR is would understand that. Like, board games will be like this in the future. This is an interactive board game, and it is freaking awesome. It has a lot of content in it, and if it's your niche and that's something you like, you are going to pick this game up and have an absolute blast playing it. All right, guys, with our number 9 pick here, we kind of have a series, and we're going to talk about the Red Matter series. Now, more in particular, like Red Matter 2 is the newest of these games, and it definitely has some upgraded tech compared to the first game that came out a while ago. But I think if you're looking to pick up a story-based game with some puzzle and some action, you play through Red Matter 1, you get to Red Matter 2, and you play through all of that, I think you're going to just have a wonderful, wonderful cosmic adventure. I was so blown away by this game when I played it. 2 in particular. 1 was a good game. Do not get me wrong. 1's a good game, and it definitely sets the stage for 2. But 2 is just one of the most beautiful titles I've ever seen in virtual reality, and it just felt like such a great space cosmic adventure. I really enjoyed my playthrough of this game. The attention to detail, the small little things, the graphics, everything about this. The soundtrack was fantastic. Like, I had such a good time playing this game, and puzzle games aren't necessarily something that I normally am like super high on, just because it's just not my genre. But there was enough puzzles, enough action, enough adventure, enough story in this game that kept me engaged the whole time. It truly was one of the best VR titles that I've ever played. All right, here at number 8, it's an oldie, but listen, this is the game I've been talking about for years on my channel, and I put it on a lot of these lists because it deserves to be here, and I don't care what anybody says, Until You Fall is a absolutely fantastic game. This game has just enough to make it one of the best VR titles that I've ever played. The combat in this game feels fantastic. probably one of the best done combats I've ever played in a game that was not physics-based. And it feels just enough physics-based to never leave you from the immersion, but the fast-pacedness of the combat in this game, I mean, there were some times in some sequences in this game where you like had to block and then fight and then dodge, and then it was just like you were getting enough movement. Like, I mean, you were actually out of breath playing this, and it was just incredible. And the runs are all different. Like, it's a game that I think you can really spend a little bit of time in just mastering the combat because of how fun it is, going on these runs, seeing how deep you can get in, seeing if you can beat like the nightmare level runs, you know, with when you have upgraded weapons. And there's a little bit of RPG mechanics here because you do actually have upgrades that you can unlock in your main hub, and you know, you level up certain weapons to, you know, be better in the dungeons. It's a really good game. It's a simple game with some deep progression mechanics and some roguelike aspects to it, and it's just the combat in this game is so fun. It's an oldie, but I'm telling you, if you pick this game up, you're not gonna be disappointed, and you're gonna absolutely get your money's worth. Getting into our number 7 pick here, this would be a game that, to be honest with you, would be a lot higher on this list in probably 1 year. They just released a roadmap for it, and that is Dungeons of Eternity. Now, listen, this game is fantastic. I mean, fantastic. Like I said, this game would be a lot higher on this list in 1 year from now when they complete all the stuff on the roadmap, because the game actually has a lot of content. It's pretty good content-wise, but it's not great. You can get a lot out of this game early on. I think when you get to the later on stages of this game, it becomes a little bit more difficult because a lot of the content becomes a little bit repetitive. Now, when they do some of these updates to this game, and they add more levels and they add, you know, better weapons and more stuff to kind of do when you get a little bit later on in the leveling system, this game is going to run the distance because its combat, the presence, the co-op, it's all so good. And it's just a great title. The sounds are amazing. Playing with your friends in this game is really good. I just think the biggest thing that this game struggles from is that it just doesn't have enough content that's not repetitive. And that's really the biggest thing with it. Other than that, it's a absolutely standout co-op title that deserves a lot of praise, and the developers did an amazing job with this game. I do still think this is a buy now game. I think that you're gonna buy this game, you're gonna play it for like 20 to 30 hours is basically what I did, maybe a little bit more even, and then you're gonna probably put it down, and maybe you'll revisit it in a year when they had to add a bunch of content, and hopefully they add, you know, enough stuff to keep us playing long term. I think this game could go the distance if they just turn it into a little bit of an MMO kind of, you know, raid system, you know, where there's loot to get and constantly evolving and making it better. This game is just, it's got such an amazing foundation. I can't say enough good things about it. All right, at number 6 here, a game that probably could be a little higher on this list, but it's definitely dependent on what you like about VR games, because this game's a little bit more slower, a little bit more realistic to some extent, and that is Into the Radius. Now, Into the Radius is a game that is just so deep. Like, even just the reloading, the cleaning of your guns, the inventory management, like, it's very, very realistic to some extent. And I think that if that's your cup of tea, I think you're gonna love this game. This game's deep. It has a lot. It is very good. It's very smooth. It's a very good experience in VR. It's a, you know, survival single player game with some, you know, horror aspects to some extent. There's a lot going on in this game. You're going to be able to put some significant time into this game. They've continued to update this game. It's just an overall really solid VR experience. Just a really solid game in general. It has a lot of deep, you know, progression mechanics in it, and just overall the gameplay itself is definitely, there's a lot of depth to this. You could definitely tell that the developers took a lot of time in developing this game, and you know, if you look at the reviews other than mine, you can definitely see that a lot of other people have felt this way. It's one of those games that's a standout, and if you're into single player survival horror story based games, I think you should pick this one up, and you're really going to enjoy it. All right, and at number 5, I couldn't resist. I had to put this on the list. I couldn't put it all the way up because I don't think that it's justified at this point, but Population 1. Here's the thing. Listen, I'm super biased. I won't lie. It's my favorite game I've ever played in my whole life. Not objectively, like, it's definitely not objectively the best video game I've ever played. It's not even objectively the best VR game I've ever played. But when it comes to fun factor and when it comes to, you know, what I like to do with my time, Nothing has ever even come close. The community and the friends that I've made in this game. I mean, I literally actually went on vacation with people I've been in a clan with, and it's just it's surreal. It's a new frontier of VR that has is just starting to be explored as the social aspects and like what that actually means. And Population 1 has showed me what the social aspects of VR can be like in a game setting that really has such an amazing game that is just kind of a little bit being ignored by the developers and meta, which is definitely disappointing. I really want to put this higher on the list, but there's not really been a good amount of updates getting pushed by the dev team. Like they're still there, they're still doing new skins. Like there's going to be updates coming soon. Like we did get new weapons not too long ago. But the pace of the updates definitely has slowed down, which is disappointing. This game's being fumbled by the dev team because it is a masterpiece, and they continue to do things that, necessarily aren't good for the game. And I don't understand what that is. I mean, they're changing game modes that are beloved and making them worse, and then they're also not improving the game modes that we keep telling them that there's problems with that could make the game way better. But it's still a good game. And that's the worst part about it is like you see this and it's like they're fumbling it. And it's still such a good game. Like it really is. The mechanics of the game are relatively really good. The climbing, the skins, the social aspect, like it's all there and it's amazing. And it might take a little bit of time to get into this game because there is quite a large skill gap. It's easy to pick up. The game's easy to pick up and understand, but it's definitely one of those games that like it takes a little bit of time to master it. And there's some people like myself and others that like if you're a new player, you're gonna have a really hard time killing me, and that's just okay. Like that's just what it is. I have like almost 2,000 hours on the game, so. But it's still a good game, and I do think that meta is going to come to a realization here as some other battle royale games are coming out within the next 6 months. They're not going to be the only battle royale game anymore, and they've been able to ride the coattails of that for a while now, that they're the only ones in VR that have a battle royale, and it's like basically a Fortnite copy to some extent. I mean, it definitely has some different mechanics, and in VR it's way better, but at the end of the day, I mean, like they're fumbling the only battle royale that they've had, and I think that time is coming to an end. Like there's other battle royale games. Contractors is bringing one out. Gravity Royale is coming out. Looks like Apex. So like these games are going to start pulling players from Pop 1, and if they don't get their stuff together, then it's going to be over. Plus, Pop 1 is free to play, so you don't have to invest any money to invest in this game. It's definitely worth picking up. It's one of the best VR games I've ever played. I just wish that the developers would take better care of the game because it could be way, way better than it even is now. But still a good title, still deserves to be number 5 on this list. And let's move on to number 4. All right, at number 4, we have a beloved game that I have a good amount of time into, and that's After the Fall. Listen, After the Fall is a really great zombie shooter game. With the co-op in this game is so much fun. It's a looter game, paired with survival, paired with some really great sequences, and especially as you start getting up in the difficulty levels, like this game gets intense. And there's no doubt about it. Like playing some nightmare runs, it gets intense, man. I mean, you got to have the guns for it, you got to have the attachments for it, you got to have the loot for it, and even then, it's hard. Like you get swarmed, and these zombies have a lot of armor, and they just start pouring in, and like there's certain sequences to certain levels where like it's like the way the zombies are placed, like it's really hard, and it definitely gives you a sense of replayability here. But After the Fall has added a lot of content as well over the time of its being out, so it's got a lot to do in this game. It's one of those games that I think if you pick up, you're going to have enough content in it to justify the price tag of this game. It's an amazing title overall, and I cannot say enough good things about After the Fall. All right, our number 3 pick surprised me. I'm not going to lie to you. I recently revisited this game. I reviewed this game way back whenever it was like in early stages of it being around. I thought it was a good game then. I did not think it was a top 10 game. However, I revisited the game, and I feel differently now. There's a lot of content in this game, and this is, oh, by the way, this is Guardians Frontline. Probably should have mentioned that. This game's actually really good. I'm very surprised, very impressed with the amount of content that they've added to this title. There's a lot of new missions. There's a lot of guns. There's a lot of, strategy aspects to this game. There's even PvP. I think that the reason why I had to put this game on the list is because there's now so much to do in this game that it's just, there's kind of something for everybody. And on top of that, it's not super, super hard to master this game or anything. You can pick it up. You can play it right away. You can go through the story by yourself. You can play with friends in this game. You can play against friends in this game. It has a little bit of everything. It's kind of a full title, and the graphics are good. The gameplay's fun. The story's engaging. Like I thought this game actually was really well done, and it's a game that kind of shows you a whole different side where you can be a commander of your army as well as piloting mechs, as well as just being a ground soldier fighting against aliens. It's a little bit of Starship Troopers, a little bit of Earth Defense Force. Like, it's a good game in VR. It deserves credit. And I'm be honest with you, I'm surprised it ended up at number 3, but after revisiting the game, I do think it deserves to be on this list, let alone as high as it is. All right, and at number 2 here, we have Breachers. Now, Breachers is a really good game, really good Rainbow Six Siege in VR. It basically is Rainbow Six Siege in VR. What I love most about this game is that the developers are continuously updating it and making it better. And it was already, when it came out, a pretty good game. Just needed some more levels. It didn't have enough levels in it, and that's being worked on and has been worked on since its launch. But the gameplay mechanics in this game are actually really fun. This game has some really great mechanics. It really does do what Rainbow Six Siege does, but in VR with its own twist. You know, there's a lot of the VR aspects, whether it comes to, you know, knocking down barricades, you know, placing traps, you know, spraying walls and then hitting the explosion on them and then pulling out your gun. This game's really cool in VR. It's really cool to work with a team, and there's definitely a community forming in this game for, you know, competitive leagues and whatnot. It's an amazing title. I really like this game a lot. It has a lot of depth to it, you know, in just the simple, you know, breaching rooms, especially if you're playing, you know, with 2 good teams, right? People that aren't just, you know, running around getting murdered right out of the gate. Like, if you're playing with like an actual solid lobby, this game becomes really intense. You know, just really, really good. There's some great moments where, you know, you end up 1v3, 1v4, and you end up pulling it out, and it's a good game. It's very smooth. It's a very polished game. And I definitely think it deserves to be on this list. It's one you're not going to be disappointed with if you pick up, especially if you like competitive shooters. All right, and at number 1, this is kind of crazy because I normally wouldn't put a brand new game at number 1, but wow. It's very innovative. Assassin's Creed Nexus. This is the best looking Quest game that I've ever played. You can see the technology is definitely going places. This is just, it's incredible. There's some open world aspects to this game. There's a story to this game. The combat is good enough in this game. The environments are just, it's one of those games that's just like, wow, like, this is where VR is going. It's a headset seller, and that's why it's number 1. This is a game that a lot of people will pick up a Quest headset to try out. This is a game that the moment they get their VR headset, they're going to download this game, and this is going to be somebody's first VR experience. Is my point. And if this is somebody's first VR experience, they're done. They're in. That's it. It's over. VR. They're in VR now. Like, they're not going to think of it any other way. They're not going to pick up some gimmicky arcadey shooter that, you know, looks like, oh yeah, like, I'd play that in an arcade game. I'd play that, you know, once a month, maybe I'd hop in and see, you know, if there's any new titles. No, they're going to pick this up and they're going to go, wow, VR is legit. It's full. It's got a full AAA VR game. Like, it's got a full story game that has like open world mechanics and that you can put longer than like 8 or 9 hours into if you really want, and just like walk around the streets of the Assassin's Creed universe, you know. Plus the mechanics of the game are pretty good. Like, this is what I'm talking about. And like, this isn't even it. At the end of the day, we have Asgard's Wrath 2 coming out, which looks like a real headset seller. On top of that, we have some of these other newer games like Vampire Masquerade that I have not played yet. I really do want to play that game. It's a game that I'm trying to review on my channel. I'm also trying, you know, going to be reviewing Assassin's Creed on my channel here. I just haven't completed the game yet or anything, and just taking me a little longer than I want. But you know, there's some really amazing games coming out, but like, if this is your first VR experience, this game right here, which a lot of people are going to pick that headset up and play this game because they're Assassin's Creed fans, or they played the Assassin's Creed games their whole life. They saw the trailer for this. They said, all right, fine, I'll pick up a VR. I want to try a couple of these games. You know, now they're at the point where there's enough games now in VR where like their money's going to be justified on buying a VR headset. This game is amazing. You know, I think that it has the best graphics I've ever seen for a standalone game. It has some open world mechanics. It has some good combat. It has a story. It's set in the Assassin's Creed universe. Like, this is a headset seller, and that is why it is at number 1. You know, I think there's a lot of justification. You can make an argument for all of these games to be at number 1, and it was really difficult for me to pick the number 1 game. It was really hard. I mean, I've played a lot of VR games at this point. It's very difficult to pick the best game in VR objectively, right? But I think that this game, as much as it's a stealth game, I think it's going to be beloved by many people. And that's just really kind of where I'm at with it. I think it's going to be beloved by many people. I think it's going to be looked at as one of the greatest VR games of all time, just because of the innovation of it. And you know, eventually we'll get games that'll blow this game out of the water, but it'll always be one of those games that like held people near and dear to their heart. Like similar to me, like really, you know, Until You Fall is one of those games. Like it's an old game. It came out in 2019. Like it's 4 years old. But like it is one of those games that like revolutionized like the VR platform for me. Like I could not believe how good it was when I played it. You know, for 2019 VR, which there were some good titles then, but like Until You Fall smoothness is what did it for me. Is like how smooth the gameplay was, how fun it was. You know, there's been a couple of those games, and I feel like Assassin's Creed is gonna be one of those games where it really just goes above and beyond when it comes to just the impact it's going to have on people in VR. I think that that's really the biggest thing. It's going to have a huge impact. It's of course a big AAA studio putting this game out, so you know this is the more along the lines of the newer type games that Meta's pushing, and I'm all for it. We need more games like this. This is what's going to push VR even forward. And you know, for me, you know, not having any multiplayer, it definitely sucks. It's a single player game. I love multiplayer games. But you know, I think that the more people that experience games like Assassin's Creed Nexus, you know, if I took my headset to a friend's house and I just gave it to him and I was like, play this game for a little bit, like they're gonna be dumbfounded. They're not even gonna believe that VR has come this far. Like it's for a standalone game too. Like not even PC. Like normally I'd have to bring my friends to my house and like pull up a PC VR game, like get them in PC VR, and like that's a whole thing in itself because now they're on a PC and it seems more complicated than it is, right? Like you just throw on a Quest 3 and you're in there, right away. Like, and this game is so good. Like it's amazing. I think that VR is just taking massive steps, and the reason why I put this on this list as high as it is just because I think this is a game that's really pioneering the future of VR, and I think that is really important for all of us who love VR so freaking much. Well, guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys found a game you're looking to pick up here and enjoy. There's some good ones on this list. There's some good ones on this list. There's some good ones not on this list as well. There's a lot of good ones not on this list, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I could name like 25 games right now that'd be worth you buying, especially in the store. Some of them are even older. Like there's some great titles on there from like a couple years ago that, you know, probably went under notice because, you know, maybe you just picked up a VR and you're like, I don't even know what any of these games are, right? There's so many good games on the Quest store now. Like I just named so many of them, but this is, I guess, the best I could do at a top 10 list because it's hard. It's hard now. You know, VR games definitely hit different. So it's pretty special whenever you find, you know, this many VR games. We're definitely getting there. VR is becoming mainstream. We're getting better games. It's coming. I cannot wait to see what 2024 brings. But with that being said, that is it for today's video, guys. Please do drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, comment in the comment section, check out the Kiwi Designs link, and have a happy Thanksgiving. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.